Aimee
Thank
Gallo,
you.
thank you. Thank you for coming back. It's a different podcast. Spirit of an Athlete
Okay.
is now Gutsy Chick podcast, but you still fit both roles.
I
Welcome
guess you
back.
do, yeah.
You do.
I
All right.
accept it.
Double degree nutritionist, 20 years of experience helping others improve their health through nutrition and lifestyle changes. Master strategist. I mean, the last time you were on the podcast, we had so much fun,
We did.
and our conversation had to evolve into what we're going to talk about today. So y'all go watch the last time Aimee was on. I in my social media, you'll see which episode that was. I think it was 19. We talked about the Teen Beat magazine and who we would put up on our wall. I had Jonathan Taylor Thomas, but nowadays, who would you put up, Aimee?
I'm still Ernestine Shepherd. I am still Ernestine Shepherding all over my wall. Thank you. But I will say, I mean, Iris Apfel is going to be up there too. She just has to be.
Yes. Why? Okay, why?
Why Iris
Yeah.
Apfel?
Yes.
Freaking fashion icon, freaking DIY my own life for like the entirety of her life. It seems certainly since like the 60s or 70s, right?
Yes.
Up until, she passed away at 101. I think last year she passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
She survived COVID.
she survived COVID. Yeah. And just a wonderful example of all out in your face. This is who I am in a
Mm-hmm.
very like visual way.
Yeah.
Someone who is not afraid, not willing to be among the masses as one of the masses. But, with how she expressed herself in fashion and her clothing, she was very much like really out there in a like all out ovary,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
it was
Bold, bright colors.
big
Yes.
chunky necklaces, like crazy. Like, you know how there's dogs that are so ugly they're cute, and there's fashion that's so
Out
so
there.
out ugly it's almost beautiful. It's so big and so unique that you appreciate it.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm not saying Iris was ugly or that her fashion was ugly. It's crazy, but it's amazing.
Yeah. Stunning. I mean, she gave Lady Gaga vibes, in my humble opinion. And I'm sure Lady Gaga was like, "Yes, I love that. Yes, I love that. Let's do that."
Right, right. Yeah, if Lady Gaga's grandmother was clearly Lady Gaga's grandmother, she would be like Iris Apfel, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that tracks.
It does. It totally does. All right, so today we're going to tackle insulin and diabetes and our food system. I'm so excited about this because right now we're in a series talking about what I call the 3 S's,
Mhm.
which are stress, cortisol, sugar, insulin, and sex, oxytocin. And I have a feeling we're going to blend some oxytocin into this and probably some cortisol.
All
So
things are related.
exactly. To me, these are the foundational hormones that if we take care of these, everything else just plays out easily. We don't have to start taking progesterone and estrogen when we get to a point where our body's not producing it. Our body just naturally holds what it needs to. All right. So give me a little info on diabetes and insulin and probably glucose also.
Little info. Okay, so the United States is the best of the best when it comes to acquiring type 2 diabetes. We lead the world. Although China and India are doing a really good job trying to catch up to us. And
No.
yes, and that's actually a super we'll have to circle back around and talk about why that is, because that's not anything that people think of when they think of those countries. And
Right?
it is a wonderful example of how adopting a Western lifestyle is unfit for any human. Um,
OMG.
Yes. So, diabetes is the body's inability to properly utilize and process glucose, or to take sugar that is in the blood and tuck it away into the cells to be used for energy. And there are two kinds of diabetes. There's type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune condition where the pancreas, which creates insulin, stops being able to create insulin due to the immune system attacking the cells in the pancreas. Type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset diabetes. And then our kids started getting it. So we had to change the name to type 2 diabetes, or non insulin dependent diabetes. And this is the most common kind of diabetes. Most of the time, when people are talking about having diabetes or being concerned about diabetes, they're referring to type 2 diabetes. And this is a disease of lifestyle. So
Hmm.
it is very different from an autoimmune condition, in that it is the preventative factors. What we can do to prevent type 2 diabetes is much better established and known than type 1 diabetes. The immune system is super, super complicated. There is not as much kind of like foolproof, like this is what we do to prevent autoimmune disease. Whereas with something like diabetes, is like, okay, guys, let's do this. And your chances of acquiring diabetes are like very low to nothing.
Mhm.
Um, so with type 2 diabetes, it isn't that the pancreas doesn't work anymore. It is that the cells are unable to receive the glucose from insulin. Insulin's working, the pancreas is working, it's pushing out insulin. Insulin is a storage hormone. It is a hormone that takes glucose as well as proteins and fats and puts them into the cell. So when I think about insulin, I think of it in my mind like the inside of our body is kind of like space.
Ooh.
And and I hope some of your listeners are sci-fi nerds, because
Absolutely.
okay.
They wouldn't be here if they weren't. My dog's name is
Otherwise,
Ghost.
they're gonna get bored. But I'll use another analogy as well for those who don't listen to sci-fi. So if anybody's ever seen Babylon 5, I think of the cells as like a space station, like Babylon 5. And whenever you have a space station, you need supplies to be brought into the space station so that the space station can operate fully and support, everything that goes on inside of it, right? So I think of the cell as the space station, and then I think of insulin as the carrier, right? The shuttle that brings the supplies to the space station. Another way to think of this is like your mail carrier or the Amazon guy who delivers your groceries and your cleaning supplies and whatever to the house, right?
Mhm.
Insulin is a storage hormone that carries supplies into the cells so that they can be used.
Which which 2 macros did you mention it carries?
Carbohydrate and protein and is fat. All
So
three.
all 3.
All three. Yes. All three need insulin in order to get into the cell. And this is why when insulin gets demonized, we throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yes, we have insulin problems, but whenever there is a movement or a meme or a trend that demonizes flat out any one hormone, be it estrogen, be it cortisol, be it insulin, or any macro, be it carbs or fat or protein, they're going too far. Everything has a purpose and a reason that is inherently good, but too much of a good thing is not good.
Yeah. Oh. Mm. Okay.
So, going back to insulin and diabetes, with type 2 diabetes, insulin is not able to dock onto the cell and get the glucose into the cell. The cell usually often contains so much glucose already that there's no more that can fit in there. And so it's like we have an issue of what's called insulin resistance, where
Mm-hmm.
the cell is resistant to the insulin doing its job. It's like when, for anybody who has kids, or you have multiple kids in the house and they're all yammering and talking really loud, and you
Mm-hmm.
just can't deal with it anymore, and you put your headphones in to tune them out. It's like there's so much glucose and there's so much insulin being pumped at the cell, and the cell is like, I can't take it anymore, and it puts on noise canceling headphones so it doesn't have to deal with it. And then the insulin can't get in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you've ever been around spoiled milk and you open it up and you sniff it and you're like, holy smokes, this is disgusting. But then if that milk sits out for a while, you don't smell it as much. Or when you freshly painted a house and you walk in and it's really strong, but if you stay there for a moment, it doesn't smell as strong because you've acclimated, you've become resistant to that aroma. It's not that the aroma is less, it's that your
Mm-hmm.
body's adapted and it's not as offensive because you've acclimated, right? So the cell is resistant to more insulin docking and trying to push more glucose in because it's overstuffed. It's like, I can't take anymore.
What's it stuffed with?
It is stuffed with glucose. It is stuffed with sugar. It is stuffed with effectively carbohydrate.
Mm. Mm. Okay. All right, let's bridge this gap. What are we doing in our food system to make the cell full of carbohydrates that are bad, not carbohydrates that are good? And how does the cell respond differently to those two kinds of carbohydrates?
So I mean, certainly the quality of our food supply is a problem, but it isn't the only problem. If we were all nomadic communities walking 15, 20, 25, 30 miles a day, we could probably tolerate the amount of carbohydrates that we consume as a culture in the US, which is anywhere on average. On average, it's about 300 to 350 grams of carbohydrate per day that the average American consumes. We are not that active. Most of the population has a sedentary job. They drive more than they walk, and therefore their energy needs from glucose, from carbohydrate, is much, much, much lower. And effectively, the kind of diet that we consume in this country and the kind of diet that we were all taught to consume in the 90s with the food guide pyramid set us up to be in this position where our cells are stuffed so full of glucose and there's so much inflammation in our body because the cells are full of glucose and there's still a lot of glucose in the blood with nowhere to go. The body doesn't like that. That creates and exacerbates inflammation, which damages the cell, which makes it hard for the insulin receptor to dock on the cell. And this creates type 2 diabetes. It's one of the ways that type 2 diabetes is created. So we have a situation where our food industry, in order to maximize profits and please shareholders, constantly come up with really rando, weird, and exciting ways to sell us their shelf-stable, hyper-processed goods with a high profit margin.
Addiction.
Yes, addiction, exactly. It triggers our oxytocin and our dopamine because it's novel and fun and pleasurable. And it lines their pockets with more money and makes them happy. However, it is at great expense to our health. Most of our hyper-processed foods are quite high in carbohydrate, and they are quite high in refined carbohydrates. So a refined carbohydrate is something like wheat, which is a grain that has fiber on the outside, and endosperm, which is like where all the vitamin E and the nutrients are that cause that seed grain, that nourish that seed grain so it can grow into a plant. And then the starch, the energy that that plant requires to go from a tiny grain into a full long stalk of grass, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is wheat. And when we take wheat and we take it from that whole grain and we refine it, we basically mill it into a fine powder that you could snort. Anything that is milled into a fine powder that you could snort should not be consumed regularly, if at all. If you can snort it, don't eat it.
Oh my gosh, I love that analogy. Okay, that's so sticky. That is definitely going to become one of our clips. If you can snort it, do not consume it in high quantities. Got it.
I said that once in a medical clinic for a class I was teaching.
Oh boy.
Radio silence. Everybody was like, did she just make a drug reference?
And that's totally fine because
In that setting, it was a little shocking. They did not know quite what to do.
really, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go off on a tangent here for a second because it's related, but totally tangential. Ozempic is a big deal right now.
Oh, it is.
It's the thing that we're using to fight diabetes.
Yeah.
Even though it's a lifestyle issue, and we're going to just give everybody a shot. Now the food companies are making Ozempic resistant foods.
You know, this is genius. Honestly, I have to hand
Sure.
it. I have to hand it to them. Clever as fuck. Good for them for
But
seeing need in the market and delivering it. And holy crap, please don't give these evil companies more money.
right?
I'm low-key jealous at their marketing prowess. And also, this is like, well, it's like the pharmaceutical companies that have purchased, or no, it's like the, what is it? Is it the
Tobacco companies that
tobacco
purchased the
companies?
food
Yeah, it's
companies so that they could use the same advertising so that people would become addicted, just like they do to cigarettes.
right.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
it's the
seeing it. We're seeing it.
let's create the problem and let's fix the problem. And they're geniuses at it. They're absolute geniuses at it. And it is, you know, in one way, just as, you know, my brain is like, wow, it's really kind of crazy and amazing how one person like Adolf Hitler can have such a powerful impact on the world. And holy crap, let's make sure that never happens again. But you can't help but think, I mean, I can't help but think, maybe I'm just really twisted and fucked up for this, but I can't help but think it's kind of amazing that one person can have that much power. And that so many people gave that person that power. And it was so much evil was wrought. I would love to see this happen for good. I really would. But the sheer magnitude of power blows my mind. And when I see these companies doing pathological behavior like this, one part of me is like, holy crap, that's creative and amazing. And you're totally going to get away with it. And then the other part, the human part of me, right, is like, oh my God, this is disgusting and horrible.
Yes,
Both
and
things,
wrong.
both, I guess what I'm saying is both things coexist in my mind. And I don't ever hear anybody allowing or thinking about both of those things at the same time. And so I have a self-judgment that it makes me a little psycho.
No, those things definitely roll around in my brain too. And I would guarantee that a good chunk of the listeners of Gutsy Chick podcast, and I'm going to guess your podcast, the Blasphemous Nutritionist, or Blasphemous Nutrition, sorry. They probably think the same way.
Maybe. Maybe I'm
I'm
just
thinking.
stupid enough to say the those quiet parts out loud.
Yeah, not afraid. And okay. So back to the Ozempic resistant
Yep.
foods. What are those foods going to do to those of us who aren't on Ozempic and who might not know what companies are taking hold of this lovely nutrition and throwing it at our kids, throwing it at us?
Well, I mean, they're going to be marketed for people on Ozempic, right?
Of course,
So
just like the Atkins diet was. It was
exactly.
for the Atkins people, but of course that stuff tasted so good that everybody ate it. Right? I
Unless you
remember
were
having an
not
Atkins bar.
unless you were not on the Atkins diet, and then Atkins bars tasted like ass.
Yes,
But if you hadn't had
but
any
you still
carbs for
tried.
3 months, they tasted amazing.
Oh my God. So true. So true.
So
Okay. So what's it
the
going to do?
yeah, so the Ozempic frozen meals are basically higher in protein, not a bad thing, right? It's
God.
not a bad thing. They're higher in protein. They're smaller portions because people on Ozempic can't consume a lot of food without, you know, feeling horrible. Their
Nauseous.
appetite is very low, and their digestive system has slowed down significantly. That is how Ozempic works is by slowing down the digestive system. So you stay full longer with the food that you consume.
Mm.
It's one of the impacts that it has.
So
And that's
constipation is
also,
common for Ozempic people.
what's that?
Constipation is common for people who are on Ozempic.
GI issues across the board are common. Yeah. Yeah.
And you and I both know that the GI is connected to the brain, and that brain gut axis creates other psycho things happening. Okay,
Yeah.
noted.
It's not all bad, but it's not all, what we have is we have a pharmaceutical, a very powerful pharmaceutical doing massive disruption in biology. It
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily have to be catastrophic and horrible. However, you do find with brand names like Ozempic, the side effects tend to be much higher and much stronger than those who are doing something like a compounded GLP-1 agonist from a pharmacist or a naturopath or an alternative medicine doctor who's fine tuning it to the
constantly.
person
Yes.
rather than the one size fits all pharmaceutical that's being promoted to you on Hulu.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The
Noted.
GLP-1, they're absolutely fascinating drugs. When they first came out, because I have a very strong natural bias, I was very anti Ozempic. I was like, and I worked with people who were taking the medications, and some of the side effects are gnarly. Vomiting, gastroparesis, like just GI stuff happening, lack of appetite to the point of not eating disorder anorexia, but the OG anorexia, which is like super, super low appetite that can be medically harmful because you're just not getting enough calories, right? So there's
Yep.
muscle wasting that can happen. And we would always emphasize you've got to get your freaking protein in. Otherwise, you're going to lose muscle. If you lose muscle, you lose metabolism. If you lose your metabolism, you're going to be worse off than when you started, both from a diabetes standpoint
Mm-hmm.
and a weight loss standpoint. And so when I work with clients, I always have them go and get a DEXA scan or do an in-body scan every couple of months to make sure they're not losing too much muscle mass if they
Nice.
are on a GLP-1 agonist, because that defeats the purpose. It leaves you worse off than before.
What's the other
Now,
term? There's another term for GLP-1. Um, what is it? It's starting to become fad also, which is interesting to watch. I will think of this. It'll come to me. Keep going.
okay, okay. So, but that said, I particularly with less so the Ozempic, but more so, well, with the Ozempic, the other thing that I hear a lot is that the brain noise around food, the thoughts around food, the obsession about food, always thinking about your next meal, whether or not you have a diet mentality, the food noise in the brain disappears. For some people, that is such an immense relief, such
Yeah.
a powerfully immense relief that I couldn't help but start thinking, these aren't all bad. These aren't all bad. And
Not
then
for
when people
everybody.
started coming to me who were getting compounded GLP-1 agonists, and they were saying, I don't have any side effects. This has been, very helpful for me. My inflammation has disappeared. I know people who have had multiple decades of IBS completely reversed.
Oh,
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
huge.
it is huge. It's powerfully huge to not to have to run to the bathroom multiple times a day for the first time in over 30 years.
Or the exact opposite, being worried about not going every 3 days, essentially. Yeah.
Really, really phenomenal other side effects that are not bad, not bad.
Oh, I want to know the
So
studies on that.
the body has receptors for glucagon like peptide for GLP-1 all over in the brain, the heart, the GI tract, everywhere. We have receptors for this hormone. And so it does multiple things in the body. There's a lot we do not yet know about what it does. And therefore, there's a lot we do not know about long term impacts of this medication or coming off of the medication. because
Yeah.
not everybody who's taking it is taking it intending to take it for life.
Right.
And
It's
that's
like
the only
testosterone for men.
recommendation that people that we hear from the medical community is like, once you're on for life.
If they're on the tweaked compound for their body, is there ever a point where their body's going to go, yeah, I don't need this anymore?
There are some people who stall out and they plateau with weight loss, if they're taking it for weight loss reasons.
Right.
And there's a multitude of reasons for that, particularly if they're not watching the quality of the food that they're eating and they're just eating less. They've likely lost a lot of muscle and their metabolism has slowed down. And now it's reached an
Rebalance.
equilibrium with their ultra low calorie diet. So what's going to happen when they try and come off
Their
Ozempic?
calorie goes up. Yep.
Their weight's going to go up.
Yep.
Or in order to maintain their plateau, they have to have this ultra low calorie diet, right? So that's something that happens for some people. And that, the biggest concern I have with the GLP-1 agonists is that doctors are prescribing them without any dietary guidance, or just making a recommendation in, the only way you can in a 5 to 10 minute consult, which is you need to see somebody. And then the
Mm-hmm.
patient doesn't want to because they're like, I'm not going to talk
Give
to
me
a
the shot.
freaking dietitian. Like, I don't want to be told what to eat, or I've already seen one and they weren't any help. This is what I need. And there's a lot of nuance and a lot of important information that is not accompanying these prescriptions that is going to set people back in a big way.
Okay. If you could give people 3 lifestyle changes in order to avoid or reverse, and tell me if those can even be combined together, but 3 lifestyle changes to either avoid or reverse diabetes, prediabetes.
Prediabetes can absolutely be reversed in as little as 3 months. I do it all the time with my clients, or rather, they do the hard work. I just show them how.
Guiding the
um,
way.
Type 2 diabetes can also be put into remission. Because it is a disease, you cannot say it can be cured because it's a chronic disease. However, it can be put into remission. That is the acceptable term that we have, where you have normal glucose and you no longer have any symptoms of the disease. This is seen in medical literature. It is seen in clinical trials. It is more easily and more quickly done if you are younger and if you have not had a significant duration of diagnosed diabetes, right? So the longer your disease pathology, the harder it is for the body to come back into a place of balance. It's not impossible. I also facilitate reduction in diabetes medications for those who have long-term diabetes. The things that you need to do in order to get there: one, find out how many carbohydrates your body can tolerate and eat less than that. It doesn't mean go keto. It doesn't mean carbs are evil and you should never consume them. It means that whatever you're consuming right now is more than your body can handle, and you need to find what's appropriate for your body. Number two, you need to make sure you are eating sufficient protein, because protein is so powerful.
It's the
And
building blocks.
it's the building blocks that keeps your muscle. You need your muscle to have your metabolism and to stay strong and healthy as you age. Protein also acts as a beautiful stabilizer for blood sugar, so it prevents those spikes and crashes that
Mhm.
happen when we don't have sufficient protein and we end up relying too much on carbohydrate in our meals. So protein is very powerful. More protein, less carbohydrate, and lots of vegetables. Our vegetables provide the nutrients that we need to balance our blood sugar and the phytochemicals and phytonutrients and antioxidants that support blood sugar stabilization by improving insulin sensitivity, by reducing the blood sugar spikes and crashes, and also by, oh gosh, I lost my third point. Give me a minute. Yeah, the vitamins and minerals that the body actually needs to maintain proper glucose tolerance. So
Mhm.
and they're also a source of fiber, which is going to slow down those spikes and crashes, and also feed fiber to the microbiome, and beneficial bacteria in the gut also have a association with balanced blood sugar. All of these things are connected. And the key to keeping the system happy is a high produce, high protein diet with just the right amount of carbohydrates for your biological need and your activity level. The devil is in the details with that.
Yep.
But broad strokes, that's what we're looking at. High nutrients, low to no processed foods, or very strategic use of processed foods for emotional celebrations, right? For celebrations, for those moments where you just, maybe you have a F-it day and you have some Oreos and a glass of wine after dinner.
Everybody calls that a cheat day nowadays. I
I
hate
guess,
that term.
yeah. Oh God, I know. It's not about cheating, people.
No,
It's
stop
not, yeah.
stop
Yes.
convincing yourself it
Don't get
is.
me down that rant, Amanda. Don't.
Right? That's one of my rants too. Let me tell you. Like there is no cheat. Cheat is not in that it doesn't belong in that vocabulary.
Right. Hyper-processed foods are everywhere. They are a part of our culture. They're a part of our life. Saying no forever is not realistic, but you need to be smart and strategic about how and when those foods are utilized. And the strategy comes down to what your body can handle.
Yep. And asking yourself, do I really need this right now? Is
Mhm.
this what's right for me right now?
Exactly.
Leslie Chen was on, and she is a nutritionist as well. And she was helping us get into the moment and be able to ask that in the moment question,
Yes.
what's right for me right now?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's brilliant. That's, yeah,
It's proactive choice rather than a reactive moment or a
yes,
reactive action, right? It's a
which is what
proactive.
the food system has designed it to be.
Well, biologically speaking, we did not evolve to have brains that obsessed about what kind of food to eat. We evolved brains obsessed with making sure we got enough food to eat.
Yeah.
But the nuance, like we didn't evolve to be, we didn't evolve as our brains are not capable of intelligently, organically, easily sussing out the trash from the treasure.
Yep.
And we're not taught that in schools. Our nutrition education comes from fucking TikTok.
Yes. Sadly, yes.
That's a problem.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Go find the people that can educate you from TikTok, but don't rely on the information that's constantly being fed to you through TikTok.
No, no, don't. And because no matter who is on the other side, no matter how well educated they are, no matter how much you fit their niche, right? You're their demographic. You are, you're an ultra endurance female runner who's 45 years old. Whatever, if that's who the person on Instagram or TikTok is talking to, that doesn't mean the information that's being shared for that demographic is going to be correct for you.
Yep.
Because it's still generalized. It's generalized for a very specific target audience, but that target audience is still comprised of, well, if you're an ultra endurance perimenopause female, then it's still tens of thousands of women. So
Yep.
it sounds like that, that influencer is talking directly to you. However, she doesn't actually know who you are. She doesn't know your physiological history. She doesn't know your background. She hasn't seen your labs. So take the
Don't trust her.
information, but don't take it as gospel.
Yeah.
Try it out, but don't be beholden to it
Yep.
because it may not work for you, even though she says it works for you.
Studies show. Averages tell me this. And I feel like that's our medical system too. Western medicine is all about the averages.
We have to start from somewhere. We have to start
Yes,
from somewhere. And thank
exactly.
goodness we have a scientific method that can give us averages and kind of point us into a direction.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't get into the faulty nature of perverse incentives in research and statistical data manipulation that happens at
We
a
talked
basic
about that on the
level.
last one.
But when done honestly and in good faith, it's wonderful to have a scientific method that points us into the right direction, right? The science suggests that a high produce diet reduces risk of death from all causes across the board, and especially from diabetes, cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative disease, and cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So the great thing about that science is that it suggests this is where we go. That science also aligns with the kind of foods that our ancestors ate that allowed them to stay healthy enough for us to even exist. So those two data points match. I like matching the science with the ancestry, with evolution, and what I know about evolutionary, like what got us here in the first place. That to me is a stronger signal. And then we take that as sort of the general suggestion and then look at the person directly and across from you. Assess yourself. What's your family's history? What's your family health history? What's your personal health history? What has your body been through? What has your brain been through? Because our trauma impacts our physiology as well. And then how do we take that into account with this science and ancestry? And that's how you create what is optimal for you. It's not simple. Sorry, guys.
It is. It is.
There are some big general overarching things, less processed foods, probably more protein, definitely more vegetables.
And I just want to drop this in here because I know I've asked a lot of my younger athletes, okay, what's a carb, what's a protein, and what is a fat? And when you ask them what a vegetable is, they don't know. It's a carb, people. It's a carb. And this is why we want you to eat the good carbs, not the processed food carbs.
Yep.
They are different.
When we think of carbohydrate, we think of starches, we think of grains. But vegetables are also a carbohydrate. And that's
and
you know,
fiber.
from a structural level. They get put in the carbohydrate bucket. That does not mean that eating carrots is going to give you diabetes. Not all carbs are created equal.
So true. It's so true. All right, Aimee. I know people can find you at Blasphemous Nutrition Podcast. That is on all the major podcast shows. You guys go listen to it. Aimee, you are hilarious and I love you. And your podcast is one of my top favorites.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's
so much fun to listen
honor
to and learn.
Hear. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Where else can people come find you? And of course, it'll be in the show notes, so you don't need to spell it out.
Okay, great. I am also at vibrancenutrition.com. That is the name of my private practice. I do nutrition coaching for active individuals as well as individuals struggling with blood sugar regulation issues and digestive issues. So if you need any support with that and finding out what your carbohydrate threshold is or how to just get what you know you need to do done and strategizing, I'm your girl.
Yes. Aimee, thank you so much for being on Gutsy Chick podcast a second time.
So happy that you invited me back, Amanda. Thank you.
Heck yes. We're going to do this again. Next time we're talking all the myth busting, like eggs and salt and why people should actually eat these things and not deny them.
Eat your eggs, folks. They're amazing.
Right.
Nature's
they're the only
food,
one.
Not a lie.
They're a superfood.
They're amazing.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about that next time.
Okay. Sounds good.
Hey, I just want to take a moment to talk to the women listening right now who are high performing, strong willed, self competitive, and maybe a little too good at pushing through pain. You know who you are. You've built a life by going all in, whether it's your career, your sport, or your business. But lately, your body's been trying to get your attention, and not in a gentle way. It's screaming at you. If that's you, I created something for you. It's a private podcast called The Secrets of Body Whispering. And it's all about learning how to hear the subtle whispers your body is sending before they turn into full-blown screams and symptoms. I'm sharing the exact tools I use with my private one-to-one clients and group coaching clients to help them heal faster, move through chronic issues, and reconnect to the part of them that knows how to perform without burning out. So if you're ignoring the screams and you're ready to actually listen to what your body needs through the whispers, click the link in the show notes to get access. Yay! You made it to the end of the episode. Good job. Now, go share this with your friends. Go like, subscribe, leave me a review. Let me know that you like what's happening here on the Gutsy Chick podcast. And if you're a female high performer with mysterious chronic health condition, go check out the Gutsy Chick quiz so you can find out what might be holding you back from healing. And if you want more on what I do with my clients and my blog and any podcasts that I've been a guest on, go to bodywhisperhealing.com. Thanks for listening.